He stood in a glittering Charleston ballroom, champagne in hand, surrounded by the city's elite, and in one careless moment, Ethan Vale destroyed everything. "Black women aren't wife material," he said, loud enough for the wrong person to hear. She walked in wearing gold, stunning and dignified, and their eyes met across the room. She had heard every poisonous word. What he didn't know was that karma works fast in the South, and the woman he'd just humiliated was about to become his new business partner. Forced to work side by side, he'd have to face not just his prejudice, but the undeniable pull toward the one woman who saw straight through his polished facade. Could a man who'd spent his life hiding behind charm learn what real change looked like? And could the woman he'd wounded ever trust that his transformation was more than just another performance? Subscribe and comment below if you believe people can truly change, because this story is about to prove that redemption doesn't come cheap, and love demands the hardest work of all. The Charleston Grand Hotel glittered like a jewelry box. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, throwing sparkles across the polished marble floor. Men in black tuxedos and women in silk gowns moved through the ballroom like schools of colorful fish. The air smelled like expensive perfume and champagne. Ethan Vale stood near the bar, a glass in his hand. At 32, he looked like he'd stepped out of a magazine. His dark suit fit perfectly. His sandy brown hair was styled just right. He smiled at the right moments and laughed at the right jokes. Everything about him screamed success. "Another boring gala," he said to Cole, his best friend since college. Same people, same conversations. Cole Jensen grinned. He was taller than Ethan, with red hair and freckles. "You're the one who insisted we come. Something about networking opportunities." I know. Ethan took a sip of champagne. "Doesn't mean I have to enjoy it." A woman in a blue dress approached them, her smile bright. "Mr. Vale, I've been hoping to talk to you. My company is looking for an events coordinator for our spring conference." Ethan switched on his charm like flipping a light switch. "Mrs. Peterson, how wonderful to see you. Let's talk next week. Have Renee set up a meeting." The woman beamed and walked away. Ethan's smile faded the moment she turned her back. "You're terrible," Cole said, shaking his head. "I'm successful," Ethan corrected. "There's a difference." A group of older men waved them over. Ethan recognized them. Business owners, old Charleston money, the kind of people who kept Vale events running. He walked over, Cole following. "Ethan," one of them called out, "we were just discussing this new diversity initiative the city's pushing. Every company wants to look progressive now." Another man snorted. "It's all for show. Checking boxes." Ethan should have stayed quiet, should have smiled and changed the subject. But the champagne had loosened his tongue and he felt reckless. "You know what I think?" He leaned in, his voice casual. "All this talk about diversity partnerships is exhausting. I mean, black women aren't exactly wife material, are they? Great for work maybe, but..." Cole's face went white. "Ethan, don't." But Ethan was already finishing his sentence. "I'm just being honest about preferences." The men around him shifted uncomfortably. A few nodded, but their eyes darted around nervously. Cole grabbed Ethan's arm. "We should get some air," Cole said firmly. That's when Ethan noticed it. The ballroom had gotten quieter. People nearby had stopped their conversations. A few were looking at him with wide eyes. Others were already pulling out their phones. "What?" Ethan said, irritation creeping into his voice. Then the crowd near the entrance parted like a curtain opening. She walked in wearing gold. The dress hugged her curves and caught the light with every step. Her dark skin glowed against the metallic fabric. Her hair was swept up, showing off high cheekbones and a graceful neck. She moved with the kind of confidence that didn't need to announce itself. She was beautiful, stunning, and every eye in the room was on her, including Ethan's. Their eyes met across the ballroom. Her gaze was calm, steady. Then something shifted in her expression. Recognition. And something else. Disappointment. Disgust. She had heard him. Ethan's stomach dropped like an elevator with cut cables. His mouth went dry. The champagne glass felt heavy in his hand. "That's Amara Brooks," someone whispered nearby. "She's a marketing consultant, works with the Meyer Group." Cole was pulling at Ethan's sleeve. "We need to leave, now." But Ethan couldn't move. He watched Amara walk further into the ballroom, her head high, her expression neutral. She greeted people with warmth, shook hands with grace. She looked like she belonged here more than he did, and she had heard the worst thing he'd ever said. Morning sunlight stabbed through Ethan's bedroom curtains like an accusation. His head pounded. He reached for his phone on the nightstand and saw 17 missed messages. The first one was from Cole. "Dude, check social media. We have a problem." Ethan's fingers felt clumsy as he opened Twitter. It didn't take long to find it. Someone had posted about his comment. The tweet already had hundreds of shares. "Overheard at the Charleston Grand Gala. Black women aren't wife material. This is Ethan Vale, CEO of Vale Events. In 2025, disgusting." His stomach twisted. He scrolled through the comments. People were angry, really angry. Some recognized his company name. Others were tagging local news stations. His phone rang. "Cole, tell me you've seen it," Cole said without preamble. "I'm looking at it now." Ethan sat up in bed, running a hand through his hair. "It's not that bad, it'll blow over." "Not that bad? Ethan, you're trending locally. This is bad." "It's just social media drama. Nobody important saw it." Cole was quiet for a moment. "Everyone important saw it. Mrs. Peterson already cancelled her meeting, and wait until your mother finds out." Ethan's blood ran cold. Lydia Vale cared about two things: money and reputation. This threatened both. "I'll handle it," Ethan said, trying to sound confident. "How?" "I don't know yet. Let me think." He hung up and fell back against his pillows. The image of Amara in that gold dress floated through his mind. The look in her eyes when she'd hurt him. Not anger, something worse. Disappointment. Why did that bother him so much? His phone buzzed again. This time it was Renee, his PR manager. He let it go to voicemail. Then she called again. And again. Finally he answered. "Renee, I know—" "Get to the office now." Her voice was ice. "Daniel Cortez is reconsidering the Magnolia Hotel contract. He saw the tweets. He's concerned about Vale Events, values and professionalism. The Magnolia Hotel contract was their biggest project this year. Losing it would hurt. Really hurt." "I'll be there in 30 minutes, Ethan said. He showered quickly, put on his best suit, and tried to ignore the sick feeling in his stomach. This was fine. He'd said stupid things before and it had always blown over. This time would be no different. But when he walked into his office building, he could feel eyes on him. The receptionist wouldn't meet his gaze. People in the hallway suddenly found their phones very interesting. Renee was waiting in his office. She was 40, sharp as a knife, and had worked with him for 5 years. She'd gotten him out of trouble before, but today her expression was hard. "Sit down," she said. "I'd rather stand." "Sit down." He sat. Renee placed a folder on his desk. "Daniel Cortez wants proof that Vale Events is committed to inclusive professionalism. He's hired an external marketing consultant to work on his campaign. If the collaboration goes well, he'll sign. If not, he walks. Fine. We can work with a consultant. That's not a problem." Renee opened the folder. On top was a headshot, a professional photo of a woman in a grey blazer, her hair pulled back, her expression confident and warm. Amara Brooks. Ethan's heart stopped. "That's the woman from last night," Renee finished. "Yes, she's the consultant Daniel hired. She'll be working with us for the next 2 months, starting Monday." He couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The universe was playing a cruel joke on him. "Can we decline?" he asked weakly. "You want to lose a 6-figure contract?" Renee crossed her arms. "Amara Brooks is highly respected. Her portfolio is impressive. And Daniel specifically chose her because he trusts her judgment. If you refuse to work with her, he'll know exactly why. And then we're done." Ethan stared at the photo. Amara looked professional, competent, everything he'd failed to be last night. "What do I do?" he asked quietly. "You apologize. You work with her. You prove you're not the arrogant idiot everyone thinks you are right now." Renee's voice softened slightly. "And maybe, Ethan, you actually learn something." Monday morning came too fast. Ethan had spent the weekend rehearsing an apology. He'd written 3 different versions, deleted them all, started over. Nothing sounded right. How do you apologize for reducing someone's entire worth to their skin color? He arrived at the office early, wearing his lucky tie. His hands were sweating. Cole showed up at 9, carrying coffee. "You look like you're about to throw up," Cole observed. "Thanks for the support." "You want support? Don't say racist things at public events." But Cole's tone was gentle. He handed Ethan one of the coffees. "She's a professional. She'll probably just ignore you and focus on work." "That somehow doesn't make me feel better." The conference room filled up. Renee arrived first, then some junior staff members. Daniel Cortez joined via video call from Savannah, and then Amara walked in. She wore a navy blue dress and carried a leather portfolio. Her hair was pulled back in a low bun. She looked calm, collected, like she walked into hostile rooms every day. Maybe she did. "Good morning, everyone," Renee said. "Let's get started. Amara Brooks, this is the Vale Events team." Amara smiled at the room. Her eyes skipped over Ethan like he was furniture. "Thank you for having me," she said. Her voice was smooth, warm, professional. "I'm looking forward to working with you on the Magnolia campaign." Daniel Cortez spoke from the screen. "Amara comes highly recommended. Her work with the Maya Group increased their event bookings by 40%. I trust her vision completely." "We're lucky to have her," Renee said, shooting Ethan a look that said, "Behave." The meeting began. Amara presented her initial ideas. She spoke confidently, her points clear and well organized. She understood the Magnolia Hotel's brand, their target audience, their goals. She'd done her homework. Ethan tried to focus on her words, but he kept thinking about that moment at the gala, her eyes meeting his, the look of recognition and disappointment. "Mr. Vale?" Amara's voice cut through his thoughts. "Do you have any thoughts on the timeline?" Everyone was looking at him. He'd missed a question. Yes, the timeline looks reasonable." "Good." Her tone was neutral, not warm, not cold, just professional, like he was a stranger. The meeting continued. Ethan contributed where necessary, but mostly stayed quiet. He watched Amara interact with the team. She was patient when a junior designer asked a basic question. She took notes when Daniel made suggestions. She treated everyone with respect. Everyone except Ethan. She didn't ignore him exactly. She just acted like he was the least interesting person in the room. It stung more than her anger would have. After an hour, Renee wrapped things up. "Great first session. Amara, your office will be down the hall next to Cole's. We'll reconvene Wednesday." People filed out. Ethan saw his chance. He stood quickly and moved to intercept Amara near the door. "Miss Brooks," he said quietly, "could I speak with you? Just for a moment?" She paused. Her expression didn't change. "Of course." They stepped into the hallway. Cole gave Ethan an encouraging nod before leaving. Then it was just the two of them, standing near a window overlooking Charleston's historic district. "I owe you an apology," Ethan began. The words he'd practiced all weekend suddenly felt inadequate. "What I said at the gala was wrong, deeply wrong. I was careless and ignorant and—" "Mr. Vale," her voice was soft but firm, "I appreciate the apology, but I'm here to work, not to make you feel better about your mistakes. Let's just focus on doing a good job for Mr. Cortez. Can we do that?" He nodded, even though it felt like she'd just closed a door in his face. "Yes, of course." "Good." She adjusted her portfolio. "I'll see you Wednesday." She walked away, her heels clicking on the marble floor. Ethan stood there, watching her go. He'd expected anger, maybe yelling, maybe tears. He hadn't expected this cool, professional distance. It felt worse than any lecture his mother had ever given him. The next few days were torture. Amara came to the office, did her work, and left. She was polite to everyone. She brought fresh ideas. She made the junior staff laugh with her quick wit. But with Ethan, she was just polite. Painfully, distantly polite. On Tuesday, his mother called. "Ethan James Vale." Her voice dripped with disappointment. "I've had 3 friends mention your little scandal. What were you thinking?" "I wasn't," he admitted. "It was stupid. Stupid doesn't begin to cover it. You've embarrassed our family. Your father would be—" She stopped herself. They never talked about his father, not since he'd left when Ethan was 15. "I'm handling it, Mother." "Are you?" "Because I heard you're working with that woman now. Her name is Amara Brooks. And yes, she's an excellent consultant." "Well," Lydia's tone was sharp, "make sure you keep things strictly professional. The last thing we need is more gossip." After she hung up, Ethan sat in his office and stared at the wall. His father had left them for a younger woman, abandoning the family business and his responsibilities. His mother had never recovered. She'd built walls around herself made of social status and reputation. And somehow, Ethan had turned into someone who cared more about appearances than people. Wednesday's meeting was worse. Daniel Cortez praised Amara's work and gently suggested that Ethan seemed distracted. The team presented their event concepts. Amara's approach was thoughtful, focusing on authentic experiences rather than flashy displays. Ethan's ideas felt shallow in comparison. "We should go bigger," he said, pitching a concept with elaborate decorations and expensive entertainment. "Make a statement." Amara looked at him directly for the first time since Monday. "Respectfully, Mr. Vale, the Magnolia Hotel's brand isn't about being big. It's about being meaningful. Guests come there for intimate luxury, not spectacle. The room was quiet. She wasn't being rude, just honest. "You're right," Ethan admitted. The words came out easier than he expected. "Your approach is better." A flicker of surprise crossed her face. Then it was gone, replaced by that professional mask. After the meeting, Cole cornered him in the break room. "You're falling for her," Cole said bluntly. "What? No, I'm trying to apologize." "You've apologized. She's moved on. But you keep looking at her like—" Cole shrugged. "Like you're figuring something out." "I'm figuring out that I'm an idiot." "Well, yeah, but maybe you're figuring out other things too." Ethan didn't respond, because Cole was right. He was figuring something out. Every time Amara spoke in meetings, every time she calmly corrected his assumptions, every time she treated him with that polite, professional distance, something shifted inside him. She wasn't just beautiful. She was brilliant, kind, strong in a way he'd never noticed in anyone before, and he'd insulted her before even knowing her name. The following week brought a creative brainstorming session. The whole team gathered in the conference room, walls covered with inspiration boards. Amara led the discussion, asking questions that made everyone think deeper. "What feeling do we want guests to have when they think about the Magnolia Hotel?" she asked. "Luxury," someone offered. "Comfort," said another. "Belonging," Ethan said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. Amara's eyes met his. "Belonging," she repeated slowly. "Can you explain that?" He felt exposed. "The best places don't just provide a service. They make you feel like you matter, like you're seen." For a moment, her professional mask slipped. He saw something in her eyes. Understanding, maybe. Or recognition. "That's good," she said. "Let's build from that." The session lasted 3 hours. By the end, they had a solid direction. Amara had guided them there with patience and structure, but she'd also listened, really listened, to everyone's ideas, including his. As people packed up to leave, Ethan found himself working up the courage to say something, anything to break through that polite distance. "Miss Brooks." "Amara," she interrupted gently. "You can call me Amara." It was the first personal thing she'd said to him in 2 weeks. "Amara," he repeated. The name felt important in his mouth. "I just wanted to say, your work today was incredible. You have a gift for bringing people together." "Thank you." She packed her portfolio, not quite meeting his eyes. "This team is talented. They just needed the right questions. You made me think differently about our work, about a lot of things." She paused, looked at him, really looked at him, not just through him. "Respect is quieter than charm, Mr. Vale," she said softly. "Remember that." Then she left, and Ethan stood there, her words echoing in his head. That night he couldn't sleep. He kept replaying the day, the way Amara had listened to everyone, the way she'd built people up instead of cutting them down, the way she'd turned his vague idea about belonging into something meaningful. She'd shown him what leadership actually looked like, and she'd done it while maintaining professional boundaries with the man who'd insulted her entire identity. Cole's words came back to him. "You're falling for her." Maybe he was. But it wasn't about redemption or guilt or fixing his reputation anymore. It was simpler and more complicated than that. He wanted to know her, not as a consultant or a contract obligation or a way to save his company's image. Just her, Amara, the woman who spoke with quiet strength, who saw through his charm to the hollow space beneath, who treated everyone with dignity, even him, especially him, which meant he didn't deserve her attention. Not yet. But maybe if he kept trying, if he actually changed instead of just apologizing, maybe someday he would. Friday morning he arrived early at the office. He'd stopped by a coffee shop and picked up her favorite order. He'd noticed she always got a vanilla latte with oat milk. He left it on her desk with a simple note, "Thank you for Wednesday. E." When he saw her later that morning, she gave him the smallest smile, just a quick curve of her lips, there and gone. But it was something. A beginning. Saturday morning came with fog rolling off Charleston Harbor. Ethan couldn't remember the last time he'd gone jogging, but his apartment felt too small. His thoughts felt too loud. He needed to move. The marina was quiet at 7 a.m. A few sailboats rocked gently in their slips. Seagulls called overhead. Ethan's running shoes hit the wooden boardwalk in a steady rhythm. His breath came harder than he expected. He really needed to exercise more. After 20 minutes, he stopped near a small cafe that faced the water. He bent over, hands on his knees, trying to catch his breath. When he looked up, he saw her. Amara stood in line at the cafe's outdoor window. She wore leggings and a loose sweatshirt. Her hair was pulled back in a ponytail. No makeup. She looked younger this way, more relaxed, and she'd already seen him. Ethan's first instinct was to wave and keep running, pretend he hadn't noticed her, but something made him walk over instead. Maybe it was the fact that she looked approachable for the first time since the gala. Maybe it was the way the morning light made her skin glow. Maybe he was just tired of keeping his distance. "Good morning," he said, slightly breathless. She turned, coffee cup in hand. "Mr. Vale, early morning run?" "Trying to clear my head." He gestured at the cafe. "Mind if I get in line behind you? It's a free country. Not exactly warm, but not cold either." He'd take it. They stood together in silence while he ordered his coffee. The barista recognized him and smiled too brightly. "Mr. Vale, haven't seen you here in ages. Been busy with work," he said, wishing the girl would stop talking so loudly. "I heard about that thing at the gala. Social media, right? People are so sensitive these days." Ethan's stomach dropped. He could feel Amara's presence behind him like a weight. "It wasn't about sensitivity. I said something wrong. I'm working on being better." The barista looked confused. "Oh, okay, well, your coffee's coming right up." He paid and stepped aside. Amara was looking at him with an expression he couldn't read. "You didn't have to say that," she said quietly. "Say what?" "That you were wrong. You could have just agreed with her." "I know." He met her eyes. "But it wouldn't have been true." She studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded toward the picnic tables overlooking the water. "I want to sit. Just for a minute." His heart jumped. "Yeah, sure." They sat across from each other. The morning was cool and slightly damp. Fog blurred the line between water and sky. Ethan wrapped his hands around his coffee cup and tried to think of something to say that wouldn't sound desperate or fake. "My cousin's visiting this weekend," Amara said, surprising him. "Talia, she's protective." "That's good. Everyone should have someone like that. She wanted me to turn down the contract with Vale Events, said I shouldn't have to work with someone who disrespected me." Amara took a sip of her coffee. "But I don't run from difficult things." "I'm glad you didn't." The words came out more honest than he intended. "Not just because of the contract. You've made our team better. You've made me." "Made you what?" "Think about things differently." He stared at his coffee. "I grew up in a certain kind of world. Country clubs, private schools, people who all looked and thought the same way. My mother always cared more about appearances than substance, and I guess I learned that from her. How to look good, say the right things, impress the right people. But you," he looked up, "you don't care about any of that. You care about doing good work, being genuine. It's different." Amara was quiet. A seagull landed near their table, hoping for crumbs. "My father left when I was young," she said finally. "My mother raised me and my brother alone. We didn't have much money, but she taught us that how you treat people matters more than what you have. She said respect is something you give, not something you earn through status." "She sounds wise." "She is." Amara's expression softened. "She also said that people can change if they want to badly enough, but they have to want it for the right reasons." "What are the right reasons?" She looked at him directly. "Because you've seen something true about yourself that you don't like. Not because you got caught, not because it's inconvenient, but because you genuinely want to be better." The words hit him like a punch. "And you think I'm just trying to fix my reputation. I think you're trying to figure out which one you care about more." She stood up, finishing her coffee. "But that's something only you can answer." She walked away, leaving him sitting at the picnic table. The fog was starting to lift. Across the water he could see the outline of Fort Sumter, history layered on history, old wounds that never quite healed. He sat there for a long time thinking about what she'd said. Saturday evening, Cole convinced Ethan to attend a charity art exhibit. "You need to be seen doing normal things," Cole argued. "Show people you're not hiding." "I'm not hiding. You've barely left your apartment all week except for work. That's hiding." So Ethan put on a blazer and went to the gallery. It was in a renovated warehouse downtown, white walls covered with bold paintings and sculptures, wine and cheese, quiet jazz playing, the usual Charleston arts crowd. He was talking with a colleague when he heard familiar laughter. Amara stood across the gallery with another woman. The other woman was shorter, curvier, with the same warm brown skin and bright smile. They looked alike enough to be related. "That must be her cousin," Cole said, following his gaze. "Talia, right? How do you know that?" "Because you mentioned it 3 times yesterday. You're obsessed." "I'm not obsessed. I'm aware." "That's what obsessed people say." Before Ethan could respond, an older man approached. "Richard Davies." a major donor to several Charleston charities. He'd always been friendly to Ethan, but tonight his smile had an edge. "Ethan Vale," Richard said loudly. Too loudly. "Haven't seen you since the Grand Hotel Gala. Quite a memorable evening, wasn't it?" People nearby turned to look. Ethan felt his face heat up. "It was," he said carefully. "Yes, I heard what you said that night." Richard took a sip of wine. "Interesting perspective. Old-fashioned, some might say, though I suppose we're all entitled to our preferences." The word preferences landed like a slap. Across the gallery, Amara had stopped talking. She was watching. Ethan could feel eyes on him. This was a test. Richard was baiting him, seeing if he'd defend his comment or backtrack. He thought about what Amara had said that morning, about respect being something you give. "Mr. Davies," Ethan said clearly, "what I said that night was wrong. Not old-fashioned or a matter of preference, just wrong. I was dismissive and prejudiced, and I'm ashamed of it." Richard raised his eyebrows. "Are you now?" "Yes. And I'm grateful to the woman who overheard me, because she had every right to call me out publicly. But instead she chose to focus on her work and let me learn through action rather than humiliation." He could see Amara now, standing very still. "That takes more strength than I've ever had." The gallery was quiet. Richard studied him for a long moment. "Well," Richard said finally, "that's a more thoughtful answer than I expected. Good for you, son." He walked away, leaving Ethan standing there with his heart pounding. Cole clapped him on the shoulder. "That was either really brave or really stupid," Cole whispered. "Probably both." Ethan needed air. He walked outside to the gallery's small courtyard. String lights hung overhead. The night was warm, humid. He leaned against a brick wall and tried to calm his breathing. That was unexpected. He turned. Amara stood in the doorway, her arms crossed. She was wearing a simple green dress that made her eyes look brighter. "I didn't do it for show," he said quickly. "I just couldn't let him think I still believed that." "Do you? Still believe it?" "No." The answer came without hesitation. "I don't think I ever really did. I think I was performing, playing a role I thought I was supposed to play. Successful bachelor with opinions about everything. It was hollow, empty." She walked closer. "Why tell me this?" "Because you asked me this morning why I wanted to change. I've been thinking about it all day." He looked at her directly. "I want to change because when I look at you, I see everything I'm not. You're genuine, kind, strong without being cruel. You command respect without demanding it, and it makes me realize how much of my life has been shallow." Amara was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "You barely know me. I know enough. I've watched how you treat people. Everyone from Daniel Cortez to the interns. You see them, really see them. I've spent my whole life learning how to look at people without seeing them." She moved to stand beside him against the wall. They both stared out at the courtyard. "My cousin thinks I'm crazy for working with you," Amara said softly. "She says I'm too forgiving. Maybe you are. Maybe. Or maybe I believe people are more than their worst moments." She turned to look at him. "But believing in potential isn't the same as trusting someone. Trust has to be earned." "Then let me earn it." "How?" "I don't know yet, but I'll figure it out." A small smile touched her lips. "You're stubborn. Is that a bad thing?" "Depends on what you're being stubborn about." They stood there together in the warm Charleston night. Inside, the jazz music played on. People laughed and talked about art. But out here, it was just the two of them. The string lights cast soft shadows on her face. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for what you said to Mr. Davies. You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did." She held his gaze for a long moment. Then she pushed off the wall. "I should get back to Talia. She's probably wondering where I am." "Right, of course." But before she left, she touched his arm briefly. Just a quick touch, her fingers warm through his sleeve. "Keep working on it," she said. "The change thing. It looks good on you." Then she was gone, leaving him in the courtyard with his heart beating too fast and hope spreading through his chest like sunrise. Monday morning brought news. Renee called an emergency meeting. "Daniel Cortez approved the initial campaign proposal," she announced to the team. "He wants to move forward with the Savannah location scouting. Wednesday, 2-day trip." Ethan's mind immediately went to logistics. "Who's going?" "You and Amara will lead. Cole, you'll handle things here. This is an important step. The Savannah property is the Magnolia's flagship. We need to nail this." After the meeting, Cole cornered Ethan in the hallway. 2 days, alone with her. This is either the universe helping you or testing you. It's work, Cole, that's all. "Right. Keep telling yourself that." Cole grinned. "Just don't mess it up. You're finally making progress." "What progress?" She's professional, polite. We had one decent conversation. She touched your arm Saturday night. Talia told me. They were talking about it. Ethan's heart jumped. How do you know Talia? I introduced myself at the gallery. She's nice. Also deeply suspicious of you. But I'm working on it. You're ridiculous. I'm helpful. There's a difference. That evening, Ethan lay in bed staring at the ceiling. 2 days with Amara, in Savannah. A 4-hour drive there and back. Hotel rooms, dinners, long hours working side by side. It should have made him nervous. Instead, he felt something else. Anticipation. He thought about her touch on his arm, the small smile she'd given him, the way she'd said change looked good on him. Maybe Cole was right. Maybe he was falling for her. No, not falling. That made it sound accidental. This was deliberate. Every conversation, every moment she showed him how to be better. Every time her professional mask slipped just enough for him to see the real person underneath. He was choosing to fall, which somehow felt scarier and more honest at the same time. Wednesday morning, 6 a.m., Ethan loaded his overnight bag into his car and drove to the office. Amara was already there, waiting by her own vehicle. We can take one car, Ethan offered. Save on mileage. She hesitated. That's practical. We're both adults, professionals. It makes sense. Okay. Your car or mine? Mine has better gas mileage. She smiled slightly, always thinking about the bottom line. They loaded her bag into his trunk and headed out of Charleston. The morning was clear, the sky turning from grey to soft blue. Traffic was light. For the first 20 minutes, they drove in silence. Not uncomfortable, but not exactly relaxed either. Finally, Amara spoke. What kind of music do you like? I'm flexible. What do you want to listen to? That's not an answer. What do you like? He thought about it. Honestly, I don't know. I usually just have on whatever's popular. Background noise. You don't have songs that mean something to you? Not really. He felt suddenly exposed. Is that weird? It's sad. She pulled out her phone. I'm educating you. Do you mind Motown? Go for it. She connected to his car's Bluetooth, and suddenly Marvin Gaye was singing about what's going on. The music filled the space between them. Amara hummed along quietly. My mother played this all the time when I was growing up, she said. Sunday mornings, cleaning the house. She'd sing into the broom handle like a microphone. Ethan tried to imagine his own mother doing that. Couldn't. That sounds nice. It was. We didn't have much, but we had music. And each other. Tell me about your brother. She looked surprised. Marcus, he's a teacher, 4th grade. Lives in Atlanta now with his wife and 2 kids. He's the responsible one. Always was. And you're what? The rebellious one? The dreamer. I wanted to travel, see the world, build something creative. Marcus wanted stability. We're different but close. Do you talk to him often? Every Sunday, it's our thing. She paused. What about you? Any siblings? No, just me. And after my father left, it was just me and my mother. We're not close, we're just stuck together. That sounds lonely. It is. They passed through small towns with churches and gas stations. The landscape shifted from coastal low country to deeper forests. Ethan found himself relaxing. Amara told stories about her childhood, about Marcus getting in trouble for bringing home stray dogs, about her mother's terrible cooking that everyone pretended to love. He laughed, really laughed. When was the last time he'd done that? Your turn, Amara said. Happy childhood memory. You must have at least one. He thought hard. Christmas morning when I was 8, before my father left. He made pancakes shaped like snowmen. My mother actually smiled. We opened presents slowly, making it last. For one morning we felt like a normal family. That's a good memory. It's pretty much the only one. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, You can't change your childhood, but you can choose what kind of memories you make from now on. Is that your mother's wisdom too? That's mine. Around noon, they stopped for lunch at a small diner outside of Beaufort. The place had vinyl booths and a waitress who called everyone honey. They ordered sandwiches and sweet tea. This place doesn't look like somewhere you'd normally eat, Amara observed. I'm expanding my horizons, Ethan said. Isn't that what this whole thing is about? She smiled. Maybe you are changing. Over lunch, they talked about the Savannah project. Amara showed him her notes, explaining her vision. She wanted to highlight the Magnolia Hotel's history while making it feel current. Honor the past without being stuck in it. It's a metaphor, Ethan said. For what? Nothing, just thinking out loud. But she was looking at him with those intelligent eyes, and he knew she understood exactly what he meant. They reached Savannah by 3 p.m. The city rose up with its historic squares and moss-draped trees. The Magnolia Hotel sat on a tree-lined street, a beautiful old building with modern updates. Elegant but welcoming. At check-in, the receptionist looked confused. "I have you both booked, but there was a system error. Your rooms are adjoining. Is that okay? We're fully booked this week, so I can't move anyone." Ethan looked at Amara. "Is that okay with you?" She shrugged. "We're professionals. It's fine." But as they took the elevator up to the 4th floor, he could feel the tension building. Adjoining rooms, just a door between them. His room was classic Southern charm. Dark wood furniture, white linens, a view of the square. He heard Amara moving around next door, unpacking. They agreed to meet in an hour to tour the hotel's event spaces. Ethan showered and changed, trying not to think about the fact that Amara was doing the same thing just feet away. He'd been good at keeping his distance all day. Professional, appropriate, but it was getting harder. When they met in the hallway, she'd changed into a soft yellow sundress. Her hair was down, curling slightly at the ends. She looked less like a consultant and more like a woman. Beautiful, real. "Ready?" she asked. "Yeah, let's do this." They spent 3 hours touring the hotel, the ballroom, the courtyard, the rooftop terrace. Amara took photos and notes. She asked questions about capacity, acoustics, vendor access. She was thorough, detail-oriented, but Ethan kept noticing other things. The way she bit her lip when she was thinking, how she touched fabrics to test their texture, the soft scent of her perfume when she stood close to look at his notes. By 7 p.m., they'd gathered all the information they needed. "Dinner?" Ethan suggested. "There's a good restaurant in the hotel." "Okay, give me 30 minutes to change." "You look fine." She gave him a look. 30 minutes. He waited in the lobby, checking work emails but not really reading them. When Amara came back down, she wore a simple black dress. Elegant, understated, perfect. They ate in the hotel's garden restaurant, white lights strung through the trees. The food was excellent. She ordered shrimp and grits, he got low country stew. They talked about the day's findings, about the campaign timeline. But somewhere between dinner and dessert, the conversation shifted. "Can I ask you something?" Amara said. "You don't have to answer. Go ahead. Why did you say it? That night at the gala. What were you thinking?" He'd known this question would come eventually. He set down his fork. "I was thinking about nothing," he said honestly. "That's the problem. I was on autopilot, saying things I'd heard other men say, trying to fit in with a crowd that I don't even like. My whole life has been about fitting in, looking right, saying the right things to the right people, and somewhere along the way I stopped thinking about whether any of it was true." He looked at her. "I hurt you, and I didn't even know you. That's what makes it worse. You were just an abstract concept to me, not a person. And now? Now you're very real. And I'm ashamed it took hurting you to make me see that." She was quiet, turning her wine glass slowly. The lights flickered in the trees. Somewhere, a jazz band was playing. "My father used to say something," she said softly. "He said, the first apology is words. The second apology is time. You show up day after day, proving you meant the words. And the third apology is change, when you become different than you were. Which apology am I on? You're working on number 2. Maybe starting number 3. She looked up. "But it takes time. Change doesn't happen in a few weeks." "I know. Do you?" Her voice was gentle but firm. "Because I need to know you're doing this for you, not for me. Not to clear your conscience or save your reputation, but because you genuinely want to be a better person." "I am. I do." He leaned forward. "You've shown me what that looks like. How to see people, how to listen, how to care about something beyond my own comfort. And I'm grateful for that, but I'm not doing it just because you're teaching me. I'm doing it because I don't like who I was, and I want to be someone different, someone better." A long silence stretched between them. The jazz music floated on the warm air. Finally, Amara smiled. "Okay," she said simply. "Okay? I believe you. For now." The waiter brought dessert, bread pudding with whiskey sauce. They shared it, quiet and comfortable. When the check came, Ethan paid, despite her protests. "Company expense," he said. "This feels like more than that. Maybe, is that okay?" She didn't answer right away. Then she said, "Ask me again in a few weeks." They walked through the hotel lobby. Near the elevator, she paused. "Thank you for today," she said. "For the drive, the conversation, for being—" she searched for the word. "Present. Thank you for giving me a chance. They stood there, and Ethan felt the pull. The urge to touch her hand, move closer, close the distance. But he didn't. This wasn't about what he wanted. It was about what she needed. Time, patience, proof. Good night, Amara. Good night, Ethan. His first name. She'd finally used his first name. He went to his room feeling lighter than he had in years. Ethan couldn't sleep. The hotel room was comfortable, the bed soft, but his mind wouldn't shut off. He kept thinking about dinner, the way Amara had smiled, how she'd finally used his first name. Around 11, he heard movement next door. Footsteps. Water running. She couldn't sleep either. He shouldn't knock. It was late. Inappropriate. But then he heard a frustrated sigh through the adjoining door. Before he could talk himself out of it, he knocked softly. Amara, you okay? Silence. Then the door opened. She stood there in pajama pants and a t-shirt, her hair wrapped in a silk scarf. No makeup. She looked tired and real and beautiful. Can't sleep, she admitted. My mind's going over tomorrow's presentation. Mine too. Want to run through it? Fresh eyes might help. She hesitated, then stepped back. Come in, but keep the door open. Of course. Her room was identical to his, but somehow different. Her laptop sat open on the desk. Notes spread across the bed. A half-empty water bottle. The window was cracked, letting in warm night air. They sat on opposite ends of the bed, her laptop between them. She pulled up the presentation slides. I'm worried about the budget section, she said. It feels too detailed. Boring. Show me. They worked for an hour, tweaking slides, refining talking points. It felt easy, natural, like they'd been partners for years instead of weeks. Why did you leave New York? Ethan asked during a break. I saw it on your resume. You worked there for 3 years. Amara looked surprised. You read my resume? I read everything about this project, including your background. She was quiet for a moment. New York was exhausting, everyone climbing over each other. I was good at my job, but I was lonely, and I was tired of proving myself every single day. So I came back south, started freelancing. It's less money, but I'm happier. Do you ever regret it? No. Success without peace isn't really success. She closed her laptop. What about you? Ever think about leaving Charleston? All the time, but I'm trapped by expectations. My mother needs me to run the company, maintain the family reputation. It's what's expected. That's not a life. That's a performance. I'm starting to realize that. She looked at him directly. What do you actually want, Ethan? If nobody was watching, if your mother's opinion didn't matter, if you could be anyone, do anything, what would you want? No one had ever asked him that before. The question hit him like cold water. I don't know, he admitted. I've spent so long being what everyone else needed that I forgot to figure out what I needed. Maybe it's time to start figuring it out. What if I'm not strong enough to go against all that pressure? Strength isn't about not being afraid, it's about being afraid and doing it anyway. She smiled softly. You're stronger than you think. You just don't know it yet. Her faith in him felt like a gift, unearned, but precious. Thank you, he said quietly, for seeing something in me worth believing in. You're welcome. They sat there, the night quiet around them. Then Amara yawned, covering her mouth. I should let you sleep, Ethan said, standing. Big day tomorrow. Yeah, thanks for the help. He walked to the adjoining door, then paused. Amara, that thing you said, about perfection not needing compassion, but people do. I keep thinking about that. Good. Keep thinking about it. Let it change you. He went back to his room but left both adjoining doors open. Just a crack. He could hear her moving around, settling into bed. It felt comforting, like having a friend nearby, like having more than a friend nearby, but he pushed that thought away. She'd asked for time. He'd give it to her. The morning presentation started badly. They arrived at the conference room 15 minutes early. Everything was set up, slides loaded, coffee ready. Then Daniel Cortez arrived with 2 colleagues Ethan didn't recognize, and 5 minutes before the presentation, the projector died. It was working yesterday, the hotel tech guy said, pressing buttons frantically. I don't understand. Ethan's palms started sweating. This was their chance to prove the campaign could work. Without visuals, half the presentation would fall flat. But Amara didn't panic. She stood up, smiled at Daniel and his team, and said, Gentlemen, how about we do this old school? Just conversation. Let me tell you a story about what the Magnolia Hotel means to people. For the next 45 minutes, she talked. No slides, no notes, just her voice, her passion, her vision. She described the kind of events they could create, the emotions they'd evoke, the memories guests would make. Ethan watched her command the room. She wasn't just presenting ideas, she was painting pictures with words, making them feel it. When she finished, Daniel was smiling. That was better than any slide deck. You've got a gift, Ms. Brooks. Thank you. But this is a partnership. Ethan, you want to talk about implementation. She'd just given him credit he didn't deserve. Ethan stood up and did his best to match her energy. He talked about logistics, timelines, vendor relationships, the practical side of making her vision real. Afterward, Daniel shook both their hands. I'm impressed. You two work well together. Let's move forward with the next phase. When they were alone in the hallway, Ethan turned to Amara. You saved that. I froze, but you just adapted. We're a team. Teams cover for each other. I need to cover for you more then. Balance it out. She laughed. Keep track if you want, I'm not. They grabbed coffee in the hotel lobby, both riding the high of a successful presentation. Ethan felt something shift between them. The professional distance was still there, but smaller now. More like a gap they could bridge instead of a wall. Want to celebrate? He asked. We have a few hours before we need to head back. There's a good lunch place nearby. Okay, but you're buying. I saved your presentation. Deal. They walked through Savannah's historic district. The trees created tunnels of shade. Tourists took photos in the squares. Street musicians played. The city felt alive, warm, welcoming. Over lunch at a cafe with outdoor seating, they laughed about the morning. Amara did an impression of the panicked tech guy. Ethan admitted he'd almost said, "We can just skip the presentation." "You were going to give up," she teased. "For about 3 seconds. Then I saw you stand up and I thought, okay, maybe we can do this." "We can do anything," she said, "as long as we trust each other." Trust. That word again. Ethan realized how much he wanted her trust, not just for work, for everything. "I trust you," he said. "More than I've trusted anyone in a long time." Her smile faded slightly. "Don't trust me too much yet. I'm still figuring out if you're real." Real? If this change is real. Or if you're just really good at adapting to get what you want. The words stung, but he understood. How do I prove it's real? Time, Ethan. Just time. That evening, they decided to have dinner before driving back to Charleston. The hotel had a beautiful garden restaurant. White lights hung in the trees. Jazz played softly. The menu featured classic low-country dishes. "This feels fancy," Amara said, looking around. "Are you sure this is a work dinner?" "Does it matter?" She met his eyes. "Maybe." They ordered, talked. The conversation flowed easily now. She told him about Talia's cafe, about her mother's church, about Marcus's kids, and their hilarious texts. He found himself telling her things he'd never told anyone, about feeling like a disappointment to his mother, about the loneliness of his expensive apartment, about wondering if he'd wasted his 30s chasing the wrong things. "You're only 32, Amara said gently. "You have time to change direction. What if it's too late?" "It's never too late to become who you should have been." After dinner, they walked through the garden. The music from the restaurant drifted through the trees. Other couples strolled past, holding hands, lost in their own worlds. "Dance with me," Ethan said suddenly. Amara stopped. "What?" "There's music. There's moonlight. We just had a great day. Dance with me. Just one song." "Ethan?" "As friends. As colleagues celebrating a win. As whatever you're comfortable with." She looked at him for a long moment. Then she stepped closer. "One song." He put his hand on her waist, careful and respectful. She placed her hand on his shoulder. They swayed to the music, not quite close enough to be intimate, but not distant either. Ethan could smell her perfume, feel the warmth of her through her dress. Her hand was small in his, delicate but strong. "This is dangerous," she whispered. "Why?" "Because I'm starting to forget why I was mad at you." "Is that bad?" "I don't know yet." The song ended. They stood there, hands still touching, the night warm around them. Ethan wanted to kiss her, wanted it so badly his chest ached, but he didn't. He stepped back, letting her hand go. "Thank you for the dance," he said. "You're welcome." They walked back to their rooms, said good night. Both doors closed. But Ethan stood in his room, heart racing, wondering if he'd just made progress or a mistake. The drive back to Charleston the next morning started quietly. Comfortable silence. Coffee in the cup holders. Morning sun through the windows. They were about an hour from home when Ethan's phone buzzed. Then started ringing. What the hell? He glanced at the screen. Cole. He answered on speaker. "What's up? Where are you?" Cole sounded tense. "Driving back from Savannah." "Why?" Check your phone, like actually check it, there's a photo. Ethan's stomach dropped. He pulled over in a gas station parking lot, opened his social media, and there it was. A photo of him and Amara dancing in the garden. The angle made it look intimate, romantic. The caption read, "Ethan Vale with mystery woman, PR redemption or real romance. Charleston, the Val events." Someone had taken the photo and posted it. It already had hundreds of shares. He looked at Amara. Her face had gone pale. "Who took that?" she asked quietly. "I don't know. Someone at the hotel, a guest. Someone who recognized me." She stared at her own phone, scrolling through the comments. "They're saying I'm using you to build my career, that you're using me to fix your reputation, that we're both fake. Amara, take me home now. Let me explain." "There's nothing to explain. A private moment got turned into gossip. That's what happens when you're connected to someone like you." The words cut deep. "Someone like me? Someone who lives in the spotlight, who cares about appearances." Her voice shook. "I came back south to get away from this kind of drama, and now it's following me because I made the mistake of letting my guard down. It was just a dance. One dance. That's not what everyone else sees. They see a story, a headline, something to talk about at parties." She pressed her hands to her face. "I can't do this." Ethan drove the rest of the way in silence. Every time he tried to speak, she turned away. When they reached Charleston, he pulled up to her apartment building. "I'll fix this," he promised. "I'll make a statement. Tell everyone it was innocent, professional. Don't." She grabbed her bag from the back seat. "Just leave it alone. The more you try to fix it, the worse it gets." "Amara, please." But she was already out of the car, walking away, her shoulders tight with tension. Ethan sat there watching her go, feeling like he'd just lost something precious before he'd even had a chance to hold it. Monday morning was chaos. The photo had spread beyond local social media. A gossip blog picked it up, then a Charleston news site. By noon it was everywhere. Ethan Vale's redemption romance, real or PR stunt? Renee tried damage control, but every statement made it worse. Ethan's phone rang constantly, clients asking questions, business contacts offering unsolicited advice, and worst of all, his mother. Lydia Vale appeared at his office without warning. She swept in wearing pearls and fury. "My friends are calling me," she announced, "asking if you're dating that woman, the one from the gala, the consultant. Her name is Amara, Mother. I know her name. What I want to know is if this is real or if you're using her to fix your image." "It's neither. We danced. Someone took a photo, that's all." "That's not what the internet says." "Since when do you care what the internet says?" Lydia's eyes flashed. "Since it affects our family reputation. I've worked for years to rebuild what your father destroyed. I won't watch you tear it down by associating with—" "Careful," Ethan warned. His voice was quiet but hard. "Be very careful what you say next. I'm trying to protect you." "No, you're trying to protect yourself, your image, your social standing, just like always." He stood up. "Amara is brilliant, kind and professional. She's done more for this company in a few weeks than I have in years. And if you can't see that, if you can't respect her, then maybe we need to have a much longer conversation about your values." Lydia stared at him like he'd slapped her. "How dare you speak to me that way? How dare you judge someone you don't even know?" They stood there, mother and son, the old wounds between them suddenly raw and exposed. "How you're making a mistake," Lydia said coldly. "Mark my words." She left, her heels clicking on the marble floor. Ethan sank back into his chair, his hands shaking. Outside his office, he heard voices. His door was slightly open. He stood up and moved closer. "Embarrassing for the family," Lydia was saying to Renee in the hallway. "That woman has him twisted around her finger. Someone needs to tell her she's not welcome here." Ethan was about to step out when he heard another voice. Soft, dignified. "Amara." "Mrs. Vale, I'm standing right here." Silence. "I heard everything you just said," Amara continued, "and I want you to know that I agree with you. This situation is embarrassing. For me, I came here to do a job, to work professionally, and instead I've been turned into a headline, a gossip story, and apparently a threat to your family reputation." "Young lady, I didn't mean—" "Yes, you did." Amara's voice was calm but firm. "You meant every word, and that's fine. You're protecting your son. I understand that, but I won't be spoken about like I'm some kind of problem to be solved." Ethan pushed the door open. "Amara," she looked at him, and he saw the hurt in her eyes, the exhaustion. "I'm resigning from the contract. Effective immediately. Renee, I'll email you the handoff documents for the Magnolia project. Someone else can take it from here." You don't have to do that, Renee said quickly. Yes, I do. Amara picked up her bag from a nearby chair. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm sorry it didn't work out. She walked past Lydia without another glance, past Ethan, who stood frozen, trying to find words, past Cole, who'd appeared in the hallway with wide eyes. Amara, wait, Ethan called, but she was already at the elevator. The doors opened. She stepped inside and pressed the button. The last thing Ethan saw before the doors closed was her face, composed, professional, hurting. Then she was gone. Ethan turned to his mother. Get out. Ethan, get out of my office, out of this building now. Lydia opened her mouth to argue, saw his face, and left without another word. Cole approached carefully. Man, are you okay? No. Ethan's voice was hollow. I'm really not. The next morning, Ethan arrived at the office early. Too early. The sun hadn't risen yet. He needed to see Amara, to apologize, to beg her to reconsider. But when he reached her temporary office, it was empty. The desk was clean. Her laptop gone. The inspiration boards she'd created gone. Even the small plant she'd brought from home gone. On the desk sat a single envelope with his name on it. He opened it with shaking hands. Her handwriting was neat, elegant. Ethan, this isn't about you. Not entirely. It's about me choosing my peace over a paycheck. I came back south to build a life that felt honest, where I didn't have to fight for respect every single day. This situation reminded me how easily that peace can be disrupted. You asked me once how you could prove your change was real. Here's the truth, you can't prove it to me. You have to prove it to yourself, and you have to do it whether I'm around or not. I believe you're trying. I believe you want to be better. But wanting isn't enough. You have to actually do the work. Stand up to the people who want you to stay the same. Make different choices. Build a different life. Do that for you, not for me. Not for your company's reputation. For you. Take care of yourself. Amara Ethan read the letter 3 times. Then he folded it carefully and put it in his pocket, over his heart. Cole found him an hour later, still sitting in the empty office. She's really gone, Cole said softly. Yeah. What are you going to do? I don't know. But that was a lie. He knew exactly what he had to do. The problem was finding the courage to do it. The next few days blurred together. Work felt meaningless. Ethan went through the motions. Meetings. Emails, calls. But his heart wasn't in it. The Magnolia project was reassigned to another consultant. Daniel Cortez was disappointed but understanding. Ms. Brooks is a professional, Daniel said during a phone call. She sent me detailed notes. The project will continue. But I have to say, Ethan, I was impressed by your partnership. It's a shame it ended. Yes, Ethan said numbly. It is. At night, he reread her letter, studied every word. You have to prove it to yourself. She was right. He'd been performing change, not living it, saying the right things, making surface-level improvements, but he hadn't dealt with the core issue. He was still letting other people define him, his mother, Charleston society, the expectations he'd grown up with. On Friday evening, he drove to his mother's house. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. The house was as he remembered, perfect on the outside, cold on the inside. Lydia answered the door, surprised. Ethan, I didn't expect you. We need to talk. They sat in the formal living room, the same room where his father had announced he was leaving, where his mother had cried once and never cried again. I've been thinking about Dad, Ethan said. Lydia stiffened. Why? Because I'm becoming him, caring more about appearances than people, running from real connection because it's messy and uncomfortable, letting fear make my decisions. You're nothing like your father. I'm exactly like him. He left rather than deal with his problems. I hide behind a polished image rather than show people who I really am. We're both cowards. That's not fair. It's true. Ethan leaned forward. And you've spent 20 years so worried about what people think that you forgot to actually live. You've built this perfect reputation, but you're alone. Is that really what you wanted? Tears filled Lydia's eyes. I did what I had to do, to survive, to protect us. I know, and I'm grateful. But Mom, he used the word he hadn't used in years. I can't live like that anymore. I can't keep performing, pretending. It's killing me. What do you want from me? I want you to see Amara for who she actually is. Smart, kind, strong, better than me in every way. And I want you to understand that your prejudice, your obsession with image, cost me something real, something I might never get back. Lydia was silent for a long time. Then she whispered, I was wrong. About her. About a lot of things. I don't know how to be different. Neither do I, Ethan admitted, but I have to try. He left his mother sitting in that formal living room, tears on her face, the perfect furniture surrounding her like a beautiful cage. That night, alone in his apartment, Ethan looked at his life, really looked at it. The expensive furniture nobody sat on, the artwork he didn't really like but bought because it seemed impressive, the closet full of suits for a role he was tired of playing. He thought about Amara, her small apartment full of photos and plants, her laughter, the way she turned ideas into stories, the way she'd seen through him so easily. He pulled out his phone and read old emails from her. Her professional messages were clear and warm. Her ideas were brilliant. Her handwriting on her resignation letter was gentle despite the pain underneath. She'd shown him what integrity looked like, what real strength looked like, and then she'd walked away, choosing herself over staying in a situation that diminished her. She'd done what he'd never had the courage to do. Ethan sat in the dark, his apartment full of things that meant nothing, and finally understood what he'd lost. Not just a colleague, not just a potential relationship, but a mirror, someone who'd shown him who he could be, and he'd let his mother, his fear, and his inability to truly change drive her away. Sunday morning, Ethan found himself at a cafe he'd never been to before, Talia's Cafe. The sign outside read, "Sweet Talia's," in cheerful yellow letters. Through the window, he could see cozy tables, local art on the walls, and a chalkboard menu featuring creative drink names. He almost turned around, almost got back in his car and drove away, but Amara's words echoed in his mind. "You have to prove it to yourself." The bell chimed when he walked in. A few customers looked up, then went back to their coffee and conversations. Behind the counter stood a woman who could only be Talia. She had Amara's eyes, her warm smile. But when she saw Ethan, the smile disappeared. "We're out of whatever you came here for," she said flatly. "I just want to talk." "I don't want to talk to you." "I know, but I'm asking anyway." Talia studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded toward a table in the corner. 5 minutes. Then you leave." They sat. Talia crossed her arms, waiting. "I need to reach Amara," Ethan said. "No, I need to apologize." "You already apologized, several times, and then your mother made her feel like garbage, and she left. You want another chance? Too bad. You used them all up." The words hurt because they were true. "You're right, I messed up, but I'm trying to be better." Trying isn't good enough. Amara deserves someone who's already better, who doesn't need her to teach him how to be a decent human being. "I agree. She deserves better than me. She deserves better than most people." Ethan leaned forward. "But that doesn't mean I'm going to stop trying. It doesn't mean I'm going to give up on being the person she saw I could be." "What do you want from me?" "Nothing. I'm not asking you to mediate. I'm not asking you to give her a message. I just wanted you to know that I heard her, that I'm working on changing, not for her, not to win her back, but because she was right. I needed to change for myself." Talia's expression softened slightly. "Talk is cheap, Ethan." "I know. That's why I'm not just talking anymore." He stood up and left. Talia watched him go, confusion and something like hope crossing her face. Over the next week, Ethan made changes. Real changes. He started by restructuring his company. He brought in diversity consultants. He implemented new hiring practices. He created mentorship programs for young professionals from underrepresented backgrounds. He didn't announce any of it publicly, didn't post about it on social media, just did the work quietly. He met with his mother again. This time, he brought a family therapist. Lydia resisted at first, but eventually agreed. They started unpacking years of hurt, fear, and miscommunication. It was painful, exhausting, but necessary. He downsized his apartment, moved to a smaller place that felt like home instead of a showroom. He donated half his furniture to charity, kept only what mattered. He started volunteering at a community center, teaching business skills to young entrepreneurs. Most of them were black and brown kids who reminded him of what Amara must have faced, building her career. He learned their names, heard their stories, stopped seeing abstracts and started seeing people. And through it all he thought about Amara, wondered how she was doing, hoped she was happy. Cole watched these changes with amazement. "You're actually doing it," he said one day over lunch. "You're becoming a different person." "I'm becoming who I should have been all along," Ethan corrected. "Have you talked to her?" "No. She needs space, and I need to prove to myself that I can do this without her watching." "What if she's moved on?" The question haunted Ethan, but he answered honestly. "Then I'll be sad, really sad. But I'll still be glad I changed, because this feels better, living like this, being this person. It feels right. 3 weeks after Amara resigned, Ethan had an idea. The Charleston Fall Charity Gala was coming up. It was held at the same hotel where he'd made his terrible comment, where he'd first seen Amara in gold. He approached Renee with a proposal. I want to organize the gala using Amara's marketing vision, the one she created for the Magnolia Project. Give her full credit. Donate all the profits to organizations supporting black women entrepreneurs. Renee raised her eyebrows. That's ambitious and expensive. I don't care about the cost. I care about doing something that matters. Why? Because she showed me what events could be, not just parties for rich people to feel important, but spaces where real connections happen, where people feel seen. I want to honor that vision. Renee studied him. You're serious. Completely. Okay, let's do it. They worked in secret. Ethan pulled together vendors, negotiated deals, coordinated every detail. He based everything on Amara's notes from the Magnolia Project. Her emphasis on intimate luxury, on making people feel like they belonged. Cole and Renee helped, but Ethan did most of the work himself. Late nights in the office, early mornings making calls. He poured himself into the project, driven by the memory of Amara's passion and vision. 2 days before the gala, he had custom invitations printed, thick cardstock in deep gold, each one hand-addressed. He sent them to everyone who'd attended the original gala, everyone who'd heard his comment, everyone who'd shared the photo of him and Amara dancing, and he sent one to Amara. No note, no explanation, just her name in elegant calligraphy on golden paper. He didn't know if she'd come, but he had to try. The night of the gala arrived. Ethan stood in the same ballroom where everything had started, but it looked different now. The decorations were elegant but warm, gold and cream instead of cold silver, live music instead of a DJ, small tables encouraging conversation instead of a massive empty dance floor. Amara's vision brought to life. Guests arrived, looking around with appreciation. The atmosphere felt different, more intimate, more real. This is beautiful, Mrs. Peterson said, approaching Ethan. Who designed this? Amara Brooks, Ethan said clearly. The concept is entirely hers. I just executed it. You should have brought her as your guest. She was invited. Whether she comes is her choice. The evening progressed. Ethan greeted guests, accepted compliments, but felt hollow. Every time the door opened, his heart jumped. But it was never her. By 9 o'clock, he'd accepted she wasn't coming. He didn't blame her. Why would she come back to the place where he'd hurt her? Why would she give him another chance? He was preparing to give the speech he'd written when Cole grabbed his arm. Don't turn around, Cole whispered. But she's here. Ethan's heart stopped. What? Amara just walked in. She's wearing gold, and she looks... Man, she looks incredible. Ethan turned slowly, and there she was, the same gold dress from that first night, her hair swept up, her posture regal. She stood in the entrance, scanning the room, and their eyes met across the ballroom, just like the first time. But everything was different now. Ethan walked toward her, his legs somehow steady, despite his racing heart. Guests noticed. Conversations paused. By the time he reached her, half the room was watching. You came, he said softly. I almost didn't. Amara's voice was calm, but he could see uncertainty in her eyes. Talia said you visited her, that you weren't asking for anything. I wasn't, I'm not. Then why the invitation? Because this gala is based on your vision, every detail. You deserve to see it, to know that your ideas mattered, that they changed how I think about everything we do. She looked around the ballroom. He watched her take in the decorations, the layout, the warm lighting. Recognition flickered across her face. This is from the Magnolia Project, she said. Yes, I read your notes probably 100 times. Tried to understand what you were teaching me, that events aren't about impressing people, they're about making people feel something real. Ethan, I'm not asking for anything, he said quickly. I just wanted you to know that what you taught me stuck, that you changed me, and I'm grateful for that whether we ever speak again or not. Before she could respond, Renee appeared with a microphone. Ethan, it's time for your speech. He nodded, looked at Amara one more time. Stay, please. Just hear what I have to say, then you can leave if you want. She hesitated, then nodded. Ethan walked to the small stage. The room quieted. He looked out at the crowd. Familiar faces. People who'd known him for years. People who'd watched him grow up in Charleston's society circles. People who'd heard what he'd said that night months ago. His hands were shaking. He gripped the microphone. Good evening. Thank you all for coming tonight. I want to start by acknowledging that this room holds a difficult memory for me, and for some of you. Several months ago, I stood in this same ballroom and said something unforgivable, something that revealed not just poor judgment, but deep prejudice I didn't even know I carried. The room was silent. Cameras flashed. People shifted uncomfortably. I said that black women weren't wife material. I said it casually, thoughtlessly, like it was just an opinion, but it wasn't an opinion. It was bigotry, and it hurt someone who didn't deserve to be hurt. He found Amara in the crowd. She stood near the back, her expression unreadable. Since that night, I've been on a journey. Not the kind I can put on social media or make look good in a press release. The kind that happens in therapy sessions, in difficult conversations with my mother, in facing how shallow and performative my life had become. Ethan took a breath. Tonight's gala was designed by Amara Brooks, the woman I insulted. She didn't design it for me. She designed it for a different project. But her vision changed how I think about everything. She showed me that success without integrity is empty, that charm without compassion is manipulation, that you can't claim to value people while reducing them to stereotypes. He gestured around the room. Everything you see here tonight reflects her belief that events should make people feel seen and valued. All profits from this gala will go to organizations supporting black women entrepreneurs. Because Amara taught me that if you want to prove you've changed, you don't just apologize. You take action. You use your resources to support the people you once diminished. People were crying. He could see it. Mrs. Peterson, Daniel Cortez, watching via phone from someone's table. Even Richard Davies looked moved. I don't know if Amara will ever forgive me. I don't know if I deserve forgiveness, but I know that she saw potential in me when I couldn't see it myself. She believed I could be better, and I'm trying every single day to prove she was right, not for her, but because she taught me that I owed it to myself to become someone I could respect. He set down the microphone. The room erupted in applause, but Ethan wasn't looking at them. He was looking at Amara. She was crying, quiet tears running down her face, and then she turned and walked out to the balcony. Ethan found her outside, leaning against the railing. The Charleston night was warm, humid. City lights twinkled below. She didn't turn when he approached. That was quite a speech, she said softly. I meant every word. I know that's the problem. Problem. She finally looked at him. I spent 6 weeks trying to forget you, trying to convince myself that what I felt was just, I don't know, gratitude that you were trying, professional satisfaction, but it wasn't. And when I got your invitation, when I walked in and saw what you'd created, what did you feel? Terrified. She laughed, but it was shaky, because I realized I'd already forgiven you. Somewhere along the way, watching you actually change, seeing you do the work without needing me to witness it or validate it, I'd forgiven you, and that scared me. Ethan's chest tightened. Why did it scare you? Because forgiving you meant I had to decide if I could trust you, if this change was permanent, or if you'd go back to who you were once the pressure was off, if you're doing this because you hate who you were, or because you discovered who you could be. I can answer that. Can you? He moved closer but didn't touch her, gave her space. When I first met you, I saw someone beautiful and brilliant and completely out of my league. And I wanted to earn your forgiveness, because losing your good opinion hurt. But over these past weeks, I realized something. I don't just want your forgiveness. I want to be someone worthy of it. Not for you, for me. Because living with integrity feels better than living with charm. Being honest feels better than being impressive. And knowing I'm becoming someone I can respect matters more than what Charleston society thinks of me. Amara wiped her eyes. That's a good answer. Is it good enough? I don't know yet. She turned to face him fully. Don't love me because you hate who you were, Ethan. That's not fair to either of us. That's just guilt dressed up as romance. I love you because you showed me who I could be, he said quietly. Because you saw past my worst moment to something better underneath. Because you're kind without being soft, strong without being hard. Because you make me want to be honest. And because when I think about my future, I can't imagine it without you in it. But I'll live with that disappointment if I have to. Because you deserve someone who's whole, not someone using you to feel better about themselves. She stared at him, tears streaming freely now. You really have changed. I'm trying. Every day. I can see that. She reached out, touching his face gently. That speech. Giving me credit. Using your resources to support others. That's not the man I met at the gala. No, that man was a coward hiding behind polish and privilege. I'm trying to be someone different now. Amara smiled through her tears. You're doing a pretty good job. Does that mean It means I'm willing to try, slowly, carefully, because I believe in who you're becoming, but I need you to keep becoming that person whether I'm with you or not. Can you do that? Yes, I promise. She stepped closer, close enough that he could smell her perfume. See the flecks of gold in her brown eyes. Feel the warmth radiating from her skin. Then kiss me, she whispered, before I change my mind. He cupped her face in his hands, gentle and reverent, and kissed her, soft at first, then deeper, all the longing and regret and hope pouring into that moment. She kissed him back, her hands gripping his lapels, pulling him closer. When they broke apart, both breathless, she was smiling. That was worth waiting for, she said. We should go back inside. In a minute. I want to enjoy this moment. Just us, before we face everyone else. They stood together on the balcony, holding hands, looking out at Charleston, the city where they'd both been hurt, where they'd both grown, where they were both learning to be better. What happens now? Ethan asked. Now we take it slow. We date like normal people. No headlines, no grand gestures, just getting to know each other. For real this time. I can do slow. Can you? Because slow means not introducing me to your mother for a while. Slow means separate apartments. Slow means building trust through consistency, not intensity. Whatever you need, I'll wait as long as it takes. She squeezed his hand. Thank you. They walked back inside together. The party had continued. Music played. People danced. When Ethan and Amara entered holding hands, a few people noticed. Cole grinned and gave Ethan a thumbs up. And in the corner, watching them, stood Lydia Vale. Ethan tensed. Amara felt it and looked at him. Your mother? Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't know she'd be here. It's okay. We'll have to face her eventually. Lydia walked over. She looked older than Ethan remembered. Tired. But when she reached them, she surprised him by speaking to Amara first. Ms. Brooks, may I have a moment? Amara looked at Ethan. He nodded. Whatever happened, they'd handle it together. Of course, Mrs. Vale. Lydia took a breath. I owe you an apology, a real one. What I said at the office was wrong, cruel, and rooted in fears that have nothing to do with you. I've spent my life building walls to protect myself, and I forgot that walls also keep out the good things, like people who make my son better. Amara's eyes widened. Mrs. Vale, please, let me finish. Lydia's voice trembled. I watched Ethan's speech tonight, saw what he created, and I realized he's become the man I always wanted him to be, not the man I tried to mold him into, but the man he was meant to be, and you helped him find that. So thank you, and I'm sorry. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Amara said, Thank you for saying that, it means a lot. Lydia smiled tentatively. May I give you something? She pulled out a small box. These were my mother's. She wore them on her wedding day. I want you to have them. Inside the box were pearl earrings. Simple. Elegant. Beautiful. I can't accept these, Amara said quickly. Please, as an apology and... Lydia looked at Ethan. And as a welcome to our family. If that's where this is heading. Ethan felt emotion clog his throat. His mother had just given Amara her most precious jewelry and called her family. Amara carefully took the earrings. Thank you. I'll treasure these. Lydia nodded, tears in her eyes. Then she walked away, leaving them alone. That was unexpected, Amara said, staring at the pearls. She's changing too, slowly, but she's trying. Guess it runs in the family. They laughed, and for the first time in months, Ethan felt something like peace settle over him. The next few weeks were careful and wonderful. Ethan and Amara went on real dates, coffee shops, art galleries, long walks through Charleston's historic streets. They talked about everything, their childhoods, their dreams, their fears. Amara introduced him to her mother, a warm woman who hugged him despite his past and said, You hurt my daughter once, don't do it again. No, ma'am, I won't. Marcus video called during one dinner, interrogated Ethan for 20 minutes, then grudgingly approved. Talia remained skeptical but softened when she saw them together. He makes you laugh, she admitted. That's something. 3 weeks after the gala, Daniel Cortez called. I want you both back on the Magnolia project, as partners. Equal credit, equal pay. They accepted. Working together felt different now, better. They challenged each other, supported each other, built something beautiful together. The Magnolia campaign launched to rave reviews. Bookings increased by 60%, and through it all they went slow, kept their own apartments, built trust through small, consistent actions. Ethan showed up when he said he would, listened when Amara needed to talk, defended her when necessary, celebrated her successes. Amara did the same. She let him in gradually, shared her past hurts, let him meet her family, showed him the parts of herself she usually kept hidden. 4 months after the gala, Lydia invited them both to Sunday dinner. It was awkward at first, but Lydia had been in therapy too, and she tried, really tried. She asked Amara about her work, listened to her stories, even laughed at her jokes. "You know," Lydia said over dessert, "I was wrong about a lot of things, but I was most wrong about you. You're exactly what this family needed." Amara smiled. "Thank you for giving me a chance. Thank you for giving my son one." 6 months after the gala, Amara received an offer. A major firm in Atlanta wanted her as their director of marketing. Huge salary, corner office, everything she'd dreamed of professionally. She told Ethan over dinner at their favorite restaurant. "Are you going to take it?" he asked, his heart in his throat. "I don't know. It's an incredible opportunity." "It is. You'd be amazing. But it would mean leaving Charleston, leaving—" She paused. "Leaving you." Ethan reached across the table and took her hand. "I love you. And because I love you, I want what's best for you. Even if that means you leaving. I'll miss you like crazy, but I won't hold you back." Tears filled her eyes. "What if I don't want to leave? Then don't. But make that choice for you, not for me." She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "I'm going to decline. Not because of you, but because I realized something. I came back to Charleston to build a life I loved, and I have that now. My family is here, my business is growing, and I'm happy, really happy. Moving to Atlanta would be impressive, but it wouldn't be better." "Are you sure?" "Completely." Ethan brought her hand to his lips. "I'm proud of you, for knowing what you want and choosing it. I learned that from you. Choosing authenticity over appearances. I learned that from you first." They smiled at each other, and Ethan realized this was what love looked like. Not fireworks and grand gestures, but quiet certainty, mutual support, choosing each other every single day. 1 year after the gala that changed everything, Vail Events hosted the spring charity fundraiser. Same ballroom, same elegant decorations, but everything was different. Ethan and Amara co-hosted. They'd spent months planning it together, building on her vision of events that created real connection. Guests arrived to find a transformed space, intimate seating areas, interactive art installations, live music performed by local students, every detail designed to make people feel seen and valued. "This is our best event yet," Cole said, surveying the room. "That's because it's not about us," Ethan replied. "It's about them, the people here, the causes we're supporting. That's what Amara taught me." The evening was perfect. Guests mingled, donated generously, shared genuine conversations. Even Lydia seemed to relax, chatting comfortably with Amara's mother in a corner. As the crowd began to thin, Ethan found Amara standing alone in the ballroom. She was looking at the chandelier, the same one that had hung overhead the night they met. "What are you thinking?" he asked, wrapping his arms around her waist from behind. "I'm thinking about how different everything is now, how different we are." "Better? So much better." She leaned back against him. "Remember what you said that first night, when you saw me in gold? I remember seeing you and knowing I'd just made the worst mistake of my life. You told me later that I was everything you weren't ready for." She turned in his arms to face him. "Are you ready now?" He looked at her. The woman who'd shown him what integrity looked like, who'd challenged him, forgiven him, believed in him, who'd changed his entire life just by being herself. "I'm ready," he said, "for whatever comes next. As long as it's with you." She kissed him softly. Around them, the ballroom glittered just like it had a year ago, but the sparkle meant something different now. Not a performance, not a facade, just the honest glow of light on glass. As they stood there under the chandelier where it all began, Ethan realized something. He'd started this journey trying to fix his reputation, to clean up a mistake, but somewhere along the way, it had become about something more important. It had become about becoming someone worthy of love, not just Amara's love, but his own. And standing there with her in his arms, the ballroom empty except for the two of them, he finally felt like that person. Not perfect, still learning, still growing, but real, honest, whole, and that was enough. "I love you," he whispered into her hair. "I love you too," she replied. "The real you, the one you were always meant to be." They swayed slightly to music that was no longer playing, just the two of them in the quiet ballroom. No spotlight, no audience, no performance. Just two people who'd found each other in the worst way possible and chosen to build something beautiful from the wreckage. Just two people who'd learned that redemption isn't about grand gestures or public apologies. It's about showing up, doing the work, changing day by day, and choosing love over fear, authenticity over appearance, growth over comfort, every single day. Ready to go home? Amara asked. Yeah, let's go. They walked out together, hand in hand, leaving the glittering ballroom behind. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities to be better, but tonight they were just two people in love, and that was everything.